Hi, I'm Dwayne Morton. As someone who has navigated some of life's most difficult, unlikely, and untimely circumstances, I understand what it feels like to battle those challenges alone. That's why I created Show Up to Heal. This podcast is for the people who feel unheard, unseen, and unloved. This is where you can come and hear true stories and where man can have real conversations. But most importantly, this is a place where we're creating a community so you can feel supported. I want you to feel in this community that you are seen, heard, and loved. And if no one else has told you today, I love you. Welcome to Show Up to Heal. Everybody, thank you so much for this coming to this episode. This is episode 23 with James Fernandez. I'm going to call him Jim because that's how I met him through. An amazing guy, very supportive person. And then also just got incredible passion to help people and looking forward to just having a conversation with my friend. So let me bring him back up. Okay. Sorry to move some things around. How you doing, Jim? Can I see?
Really good, man. Really good. I mean, good to see you again, and thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So I'm getting ready to tag you in the LinkedIn post. Man, I appreciate you being able to come in here, especially you are traveling right now, and I noticed you're in a hotel room. It's been really cool, man, to be able to see how people have been able to be supportive, but then also, we also have challenges and stuff. And so for you to do this while you're traveling, really appreciate be able to come on and talk men's mental health awareness with me. There we go. I got you tagged into this post, I think. Maybe not. All right. So I want to read your bio as we're going through some of these technical difficulties, and I do apologize for that. James Fernandez is a retired juvenile justice and correctional officer, AI systems architect, business strategist, and founder of Accelerate Decision Intelligence Engine, the Cure AI World News, the American Officer Protector Series, and the Mind Your Business platform. With decades of frontline experience in juvenile justice, corrections, wellness, crisis response, and leadership, James brings a unique perspective on mental health, trauma, human behavior, systems analysis, and decision making. His work focuses on building systems, technologies, and solutions that help individuals, families, businesses, and communities achieve better awareness, better decisions, and better outcomes. Man, you got a lot of hats, my man. That's what I was going to say. How did that land when people read your bio and you're like, wow, look at what all I've been able to accomplish?
So, Dwayne, it comes back to like, when you have a family and kids, you have to wear many hats, or stepping into one in life. So, and you have to adapt. So you have to adapt and do what you need to do to, for optimal life. It's really for living in survival for you and your family and friends, and doing what you can do. Because one of my philosophies is everything comes back to you in one way or another. So you have to just do the right things and learn how to do the right things, and to find the right tools. So to answer your question, it's kind of it. You got to wear many hats because life moves fast, and you have to be prepared and you have to adapt.
Absolutely. So, first of all, I want to say this too is you're the first person that we've had on here that has experience with like the juvenile justice, a correctional officer part. So we're definitely want to dive into the mental health part of that. So I want to get to this first question. This is the question I've asked every speaker on. For men's mental health awareness, what do you feel like we're doing correctly? What do you feel like we're missing the boat? And then what do you feel like we need to do better?
So Okay, so what we're doing correctly is one, you're here. So thank you. So yeah, you're doing a big part because men men sometimes and young men and sometimes children, you don't have a voice. Sometimes you can unfortunately take your own voice away from you. So the point being is, so what we do correct is bring awareness, and that's what you're doing. And because sometimes people don't show what they're going through, and they have a persona if they have to show an image, and especially with like social media and different things, people get these images, and either you're part of it or sometimes people alienate. And it's just healthy to you know be on top of that. So one, awareness, that's what we're doing correctly. Two, another thing we could do better, I think, as men is bond. You have really good skills at that from meeting you, and to bond is super important, um, because that's a big key. Because one of the like misconceptions that people have, I think, and it's not, it's men and it's all dynamics of life of men, women, children. Sometimes we have a perception, or we're installed with false beliefs like you have to overcome someone or you have to destroy someone for you to do better. And that's just a form of insanity. So we're all in this game together. And there's our mentor, I got to mention, Marshall Silver. There's a world of abundance. So the main thing is you got to know we're in this together. It's not a fight. You have to uplift your fellow, man. And, that's just it. And the main thing is what we missed the boat on, and I might go back to a point, but what we're missing the boat on is here's a big thing for survival and I believe, to have a better life. Like you have the challenges of mental illness and different behavioral things. And a lot of behaviors are learned or imposed on you. Most people are good and want to help each other, but sometimes you might have a problem with getting mismanagement of medication. So I always think the best thing to do is to one, make sure you're eating, take walks, do basic things like that. That's a big deal. And then another big thing that we missed the boat on is sometimes there's things going on behind the scenes, like motivators of different like companies or different people that's how they make their money, through chaos or through like selling drugs or whatsoever. But the point is we missed a boat because sometimes we're not aware of what goes into our bodies. Like a young man may experiment and try something, and sometimes there's things in those products that you're not aware of. Like a counselor that from Utah was telling me about 99% of the things are laced. So as a young man, you might get involved in things, and you need to watch that trajectory. So that's where we missed the boat. We need more education, and that's where I kind of dedicated my time to. And two big points that I worked on was one, the suicide rates in Utah, bringing them down, and we accomplished our goal through foundations and other information. When you bring information to people, it helps them. So Utah now is not in the top 10. Utah was fourth to fifth for suicides, and we accomplished our goal. And then we did it in Kansas City on another subject of murder. So in Kansas City, we lowered the murder rate by 40%. And it was the only place in America this happened. And this happened probably 8 years ago. And that's how you do it. You bring awareness. So,
Right. So awareness is a big key to it. Also having conversations around it, because for the people who aren't aware, you have to make them aware to make actual real change. I so I think that's the other aspect. Want to dive back into the how the suicide rate got dropped in Utah, but I feel like that's going to be like another question, because I feel like what I'd like to start off is from your experience with the juveniles and in the correctional officer positions, what was the commonality that you saw for men that went into those circumstances? What was that one common thread that you felt like that? Was it a type of like they were looking for a belonging? They were looking for, uh, I'll let you answer. I feel like it's one of those things, the belonging, or like they're looking for themselves, for search for themselves.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Really good question, Soy. Thank you. So the commonality that I seen is sometimes, and I don't mean to bring up systems, but there are systems, and sometimes systems are the way they are, and you need to, it takes time, but it takes movement to move the system. Sometimes systems aren't perfect. And sometimes they're ran as systems, like meaning any system could be run as a system, but it doesn't, it sometimes it loses the human element because it's operating as a machine for different motivations and purposes. So let me get into it. The commonality in some of the saddest things, one, with you have a vast amount of training. So because I was so old, I had to go through the academy twice. So anyhow, um, what you learn is you learn like there is a pecking order, and sometimes you see that in life. And sometimes I have to tell my son, you can't go and argue with every person you meet. Every person has different, opinions whatsoever. You can't pick a fight with this person. There are so many people out there that you just have to worry about your self development. So the commonality is this: is one, there's like back in the day, see, pre social media, there's a commonality of what the perception is, the kids' identities. So, like criminality or people becoming crime, because a lot of times they don't have a purpose. Like one of the saddest things is when you're talking to some of these, to me, they were kids. Some of them never been to a theme park. So, that really hit to me. But one of there's another side to this where some children, it's horrible. They're not only their home life, that's where it comes in, is educating on drug use or mental illness, because if a family gets affected, that kid gets affected. There was a point where I took someone to court, and the judge was sad, and he said, I would send you home, but there's no one here for you. And what's weird is that, or not strange, but in the big picture of things, I had to take that kid to a funeral for his brother because of a suicide. And it was just the saddest thing, because so that condition went through the whole family and, probably affected the mother, father, whatsoever. And so the commonality is identity to condition at home or with their life or what's going on with them, and then purpose. So a lot of kids, they just need a purpose, because when you have programs that you do with these kids, they really improve. And now the biggest thing, not to jump, I'm a big advocate, because sometimes you have to watch. Sometimes they're given medication through televisits, and sometimes that could, like, there's a lot to medicating a person. You have to watch it over time. You have to know what's
Absolutely.
going on. So that's a big deal. And so to have a handle on that's important. So that's some of the
Yeah. So let me
commonalities.
jump in. Yeah. So let me jump in. I think one of the things with Western medicine is they are treating symptoms and not solutions. And so that's where you get into your medicines, your medications, over medicating, all these different types of things that I,
Yeah.
and I feel like when you do that, you're also searching for different things. And when you search for different things, you create more issues. And so what I'm really curious about is for the state of men's mental health. And your experiences, like you see that they're fighting for purpose, for identity, those type of things. How can we create a better space for that to be created? What
So,
responsibility do we have as an older adult? Like also like where we go into mentorship, into leadership?
okay, that's a good point. So, let me just clarify. There are some people, and I don't want to seem like it's anti, there's some grown men that have taken medication through their life and it's worked for them. But that process of figuring it out, that's a in-depth process. So that's something people need to tread on because people are in situations where it could be really terrible. So here's to answer your question about responsibility. Sometimes these young people get involved in drug use or alcohol abuse, or that's a big deal. So the responsible thing is to lead by example. When you're at a party, you have to be the one to maybe say, hey, it's you got to tell. You maybe have to be the instructor and tell them maybe why. Hey, you might not want to drink because one, you're either going to drive or it could cause you problems later. And sometimes people aren't ready to hear that because a lot of times the drug takes hold and then makes their decisions. It makes them fight with people to give them excuses. So the responsible part is to lead by example. And that doesn't mean if you don't have a drink, you just have to be like ourselves. We have to be responsible. You have to do it with responsibility and know that, like, especially if you're around children, you have to watch in those private settings what you do and what you say because those children are learning. And it's important to let them know because, an alcohol usage can turn into a drug usage. And then next thing you know, your drug's laced with fentanyl or something crazy. And then you have problems. And it's a challenge for people to regroup sometimes, and they do it, but some people don't. Something that hits me is, we should never see young people dying. Children, I mean, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, you know, we're a modern society and we need to do better. So, with leadership, we need more programs. One thing that I thought and I really wanted to get behind, and one of my purposes is I want to have a National Day of Juvenile Justice. You have kids that get in courts, they don't even have attorneys. It could be crazy. They can anything could be said or done and they have no representation and it's insane. And kids need help because you have to have purpose even for these kids, so they're not glued to their phones. They just need positive purposes, even if it's put into that phone. And that's kind of into my app development and to my there's two apps that I'm building that are they're major. They go into
Right.
helping with the suicides, with human behavior, with some of these decisions. So I put a lot of thought and effort into this decision engine. So it's pretty
Right.
unique
So,
and to be honest with you and I, it will be free on levels and because you don't want to see a young person or someone you love die because we're here today living. Some people aren't living and people love
right.
them who are here. So we have to look at people like when I met you, Dwayne, why I wanted to bond with you is because I just felt like, this is a great person. You know, we're here today in life. We have to help each other and do what's best and just move along and that's what we need to do. So leadership I think is saying what you need to say sometimes when you're not popular for saying it, especially with children. So
Right.
it goes back to when I was, in the institutions, a lot of kids they look at each other when something's said. Even when one kid says something, the others will look at him to just see and to get an awareness. So kids are always learning. So that's the thing with men. And sometimes another thing is leaders, we need to see, not everyone's in a good place, either on that
Right.
day or
So hold on.
chronically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me get in here real quick. So, because I think you hit a couple of points. I think also as adults, the way we show up is going to have an impact on these kids. These kids are looking at how we're going to respond to their behavior. And when you don't respond correctly, then that kid learns a learned behavior that, like, this person isn't to their word. Like, they're not accountable to themselves. So then they realize that they don't have to be accountable to them, because guess what? There's nobody keeping them accountable. So there's all these different factors that are in play. And I think for people that go into the system, there's these accountability parts that they learned through good behavior, bad behavior, vice versa, to allow them to see what they could get away with. Also, they're seeing what their classmate or their neighbor is able to get away with. Same thing. It's a learned experience. Everything is a learned experience. Even now, I'm 49 years old. I learn every day. And I feel like if you're not learning, you're not growing. And so I really appreciate the fact that when we met, you were like, how can I help this guy out? But like, also, I want to get to know this person. Like, I feel like it's that living present part. You know, when we live in what my friend Sarah Elkins calls the super now, when we're just in the now period. And these kids, they haven't had that experience to be able to live freely without having some type of judgment, those type of things. So one of the things that I feel like, because of your talking about things with like judgment, they're learning those type of things, I think that also goes into your suicide rate, because then they realize, oh, I don't have purpose. Might not have these certain things. They're in a place of lack. And so then they're trying to catch on. Can you kind of tell me what the commonality of some of the things that you've seen in Utah for the suicide rate, and how y'all were able to curb that in, and then, you know, tie that into the app, because I know the app's super important to this movement that you're creating, but also try to stay in context with of what the app is created to combat, if that makes sense.
Okay. So the commonality in Utah. So I'm going to give you an example. When I came to Utah, um, I had a friend in a city here, and we went to visit their family at the cemetery. Dwayne, it was the saddest thing. The graves with the pictures had tons of children. The person I was with, their family had to cut, one of them, their family experienced, suicide, a child, and it was a medication, either adjustment or whatever's going on. So here's what you need to do. One, you need to, at some point, have talks with your children on one, the drugs and things being laced, because if a kid gets involved in that, they're going to act bizarre and whatsoever, and they're not going to know how to handle it. And sometimes that's when they start running into other problems. So you need to, one, have an awareness of that. You're outside, what you're putting in your body. In Utah, it's really nice too. In other places, with gyms, you can go to a gym and they're more like the social gathering. There's different gyms that are healthy behavior, rock climbing. You have to get your kids in sports. So, or two, educate them on who they're around, because sometimes people can influence you. So you have to teach them that. So in Utah, one, you educate, you could do some public service announcements, and there's really good free public service announcements out there. And you bring an awareness to, sometimes with the medication and with one, knowing personality profiles. You have to tell your children it's not that people are good or bad in a way, but they are. The bad isn't necessarily a bad person. People are generally good. The bad comes in, you don't know what that person, that influence, what they've experienced, or if they came in contact with drugs, or if they were sick or injured and got hurt, and their perception of things. And so sometimes I look at people as like their experiences too. So it gives you a lot more compassion. So I put a person next to a person. It's not to be delusional, but it's to say, hey, this is their case. This is what's happened. This is their life. So what you need to do is one, bring an awareness of the drugs and the people you come along with. Because if you have kids that are negative bullies saying things to you, you have to identify and know that's their personality. So one, you have to bring the awareness by two, educating them on the drugs, and not only drugs, that people lace drugs to make money, and that some things that look okay, like a vape pen, just because it's packaged, doesn't mean they don't put laced products in it. So the protocol is to kind of just flow out information, have different good positive events. Like there's different parks built around the country, like something called the Way to Happiness Foundation, that has a lot of free materials that you can get that'll teach. And there's different things. And then the Truth About Drugs, that's a good organization. You can get all this material for free on the internet. So, and
So one of yeah, so one of the things is like with drugs, it's a there's a symptom behind the drug, like the use of drugs. There's a symptom, like that's I feel like that's the other part is like there's a solution. The solution is like they're looking for a place of belonging. They're looking for some type of. I think that's the issue is that's the reason that they're doing these things. They're experimenting and they are looking for something. And I feel like that's
right,
where we've missed this boat on this whole war of drugs. Like we've created a problem that wasn't that big of a problem in the 80s by then magnifying it and instead looking at it from a symptom perspective rather
yeah,
than a solution perspective. The solution is the belonging, this for self. Like I care enough about myself to not go down and do these things. I think that's where we miss the boat. And so we're about out of time. We have a few minutes left for the 30-minute thing. I knew this thing would go fast because I know you're very passionate about your work, but I also want people to know where they can find you, where they can find the app. And I also like that's, I feel like people who would love to have more conversations with you, Jim. I think that's the other aspect. I just feel like we've missed the boat in the awareness part of drugs. Like drugs
yeah,
there's a solution, and the solution is going into find themselves.
yeah. Dwayne, something to say really quick is the difference between past and present is some of the synthetic drugs, they're so powerful. There's so many misconceptions. Like some of the marijuana that's laced, it's just not 25 times as powerful. 5 to 7 years ago, it was 500 times more powerful. So not only you're right about the developing the self. So two things I want to get across is I have the affirmation page, and it's where you develop self-talk. So I have affirmation page on LinkedIn and affirmations with an S on Facebook. And those pages are really important.
Yeah,
So Dwayne, I
absolutely.
don't
That's
know if
why I
I
wanted to
lost
make
you.
sure. No, we're still there. It's just sometime on live stream it'll slow down.
Hey,
But yeah,
did
we're
you
good.
get that?
Yeah, the affirmations with an S on Facebook, and then you also have the link. You also have on LinkedIn.
Yes. And LinkedIn, people should take advantage.
Okay, we lost you now. Good. All right. Well, man, I appreciate you showing up for me, man, and being one of these 30 speakers. I appreciate, like I said, very grateful for the fact that you and I met and looking forward to different collaborations that we have. And I'm really looking forward to, this is day 23, is episode 23. Episode 24 is going to be tomorrow with Russell Rogers, same time. And I appreciate everyone for showing up for another episode of Show Up to Win presents Show Up to Heal. Thanks, man. Thanks. Thank you for watching another episode of Show Up to Win presents Show Up to Heal. please like, share, and subscribe. Your support means the world to me. Thank you.